One of the best things about being a mixed media artist is that you can mix up your media. And on today's project, we're going to create a collage that's also going to end up as a bit of a sculpture. This week on Mixed Media Masters. Hello makers and welcome to the studio. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Good to have you here. And by the way, if you love abstract art and love creating abstract art or just watching somebody make abstract art, then this channel is where you want to be. Look around here, there's a subscribe button. It's around here somewhere. Feel free to hit that. We'd love to have you along for the ride. Now, as mentioned, this week we're going to do something a little bit different. As opposed to creating a collage on a piece of paper or even painting, we're going to be working with a couple things. We are going to be working, well, with a frame. I have this frame that I found at my big box art supply store. It's very affordable. It's very tall. And I looked at this and said, this will be really fun for creating, in essence, a collage, which also will be a wall hanging, as it were. And let me kind of explain to you what I want to be able to do with this here. So I'm thinking that would be really fun is to be able to take strips of cardboard, and by the way, if you're anything like me, you probably have some cardboard lying around the house, and just cut them into strips that will fit into this frame like this. I'm just going to stack them along here. And then what I would like to do is I would like to wrap this piece of paper with something that's a little bit more colorful. Now my plan is to use old comic book pages. And so being able to reach in and say, let's grab a comic book page, and it doesn't really matter what it is. We're just looking for the splashes of color, but to be able to wrap it around our piece of cardboard and then insert that whole thing into our frame, the objective now is just keep it going. Stack them all the way up. And at the end, we're going to end up having a collection of these different strips of color, which are going to make their own thing. We don't know what that thing is yet, really, but it's going to be something that's going to really stand out. And we'll talk also, I think what I want to do with my frame toward the end is I want to paint this black, make it a bit more of a dark, more of a shadow box that this stuff can sit in. All right, but that's really it. This is what the project concept is. And so a lot of what we need to be able to do right off the bat is to get some pieces of cardboard cut. So I'm going to start with, and I've already sized a piece of cardboard. This will fit into my frame, which is good. And I'm going to simply take one of my transparent quilting rulers here, and I'm going to just measure this so that each one of these strips is approximately 1 inch wide. And I'm going to use my rotary cutter here, and let's get some of these cut here. By the way, you know, as I probably mentioned more than once, this is a razor blade, and so be very careful when cutting with it. You don't want to certainly saw in your own hands. But if we can get these relatively uniform, these will stack up very nicely. And so the first task at hand is going to be one of just going in and sourcing some pieces of cardboard and making sure they fit whatever frame you want to put them into, and then just cutting them to size. So instead of course, I know it would be a lot of fun to watch me do this. I'm going to fast forward through that part so we can get to the gluing part. So hang on, we'll be there in a moment. All right, and there you have it. Now, it takes a fair amount of cutting, depending on the size of the frame that you're filling. It's a lot more than you might think. There's a lot of cardboard that needs to be cut and processed. And by the way, if you are using a rotary blade, make sure you start with a sharp one. It's not going to stay sharp for very long. This is pretty brutal. on a blade. But the good news is we have everything in here that we need, all the pieces that are going to make up our final sculpture, as it were. And the next phase is really to figure out what we want to put on the pieces of cardboard. These are all, they're naked right now. We want to be able to put something on them. And so being able to work with comic book pages or whatever type of media you want, it's entirely up to you. My encouragement is to try to get as much of the colorful parts, but being able to find something that you can wrap around and stack things in, you're going to get different results. Now, magazines of any kind will do this, a good glossy magazine. If you are using comic books, I have the tendency to want to work with the glossy ones, the glossy paper comics, as opposed to the more matte paper comics, just because I think it does a better job of standing out, but your results may vary. So the next thing to do really is to jump on in here and find some things that we can wrap around our piece of paper. Now, I'm not going to do all of them for you because that would be not much fun. But if I'm going to come in here, let me just trim off the white edges here on the page that I want to use. And just to share with you that it's a fairly straightforward process. And again, this is the kind of thing you do by putting on your favorite podcast or an audio book or some music and just go to town on it. And what I can do here very easily is grab a glue stick. By the way, I'm just using one of my Amazon Basics glue sticks here. And I have a couple of choices here. I can certainly glue on the paper or I can glue on the cardboard. In this case, let me just glue on the cardboard and get this covered pretty nicely. And we're going to have to do both sides because we want to make sure that we do glue on both sides. And then, without making too much of a mess, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to drop this down like that and then fold it over. So we have something that looks like that. And then I can just take my rotary cutter and trim it off. And then it's just a matter of kind of feeling where the edge is here. And again, with a pair of scissors or my rotary cutter, just come in here and trim it like that. All right, so what I'm looking for at the end is really just a wedge of paper, right? It's going to be something that's going to be wrapped around the piece of cardboard that I've already cut, and then it's just a matter of dropping it into position here in my frame. And I'm going to continue to do that with all of these. So it could take a while. This is a one-hour masterpiece in which we can learn the basics, but in truth, it's probably going to take at least an hour to wrap each one of these pieces of cardboard in a piece of paper to my choice, and I can rearrange them as I want. So let's get to work on that. I'm going to pause the camera for a little bit, come back when I have something done here, since this may take a while, and we'll see what happens. Talk to you in a bit.
3 days later.
Okay, welcome back. This takes a while. Now, I have a very nice selection here, as you can see. I've created, I don't even know how many of them. I'd say it took close to 3 hours. Again, this is the kind of thing you put on your favorite book or a podcast or music and you work on it. Now, one of the things I also did is I decided I wanted to paint my frame to a flat matte black color. This will work out pretty nicely, I think, for what we're trying to do. And by the way, just this one already has hangers built into it, so I can hang it horizontally or vertically, depending upon my needs. What I want to be able to do now is start to position the pieces that I've already created. Now, most of them are just, it's a piece of cardboard with some different comic book paper wrapped around it. And to be honest with you, when I approach a project like this, I like the randomization of it. And I'll put things in and kind of see where they go to. Now, you may end up with something that's a little bit more controlled, where you have varying degrees of maybe the reds go here, and then we have blues down here and whites here, that kind of thing. And it's entirely up to you what you end up doing there. Now, one of the things I do want to make sure is, because my tray is relatively shallow, is I don't want these pieces falling out. So I'm going to take advantage. Glue all here will work. And I'm going to leave a couple beads periodically just so I can have something to adhere these pieces to, so that even in the future when they're poking out of the wall and somebody bumps into it, or God forbid it falls off of something, things aren't going to fall out of it, because that would be just a problem, and we don't want to have that problem in the future. I'm going to start just by putting a couple lines of glue in here. Give me something to adhere into. And I'm going to just start by dropping in some pieces. Now, like I said, I'm not really worried too much about the rhyme or reason here. Whatever comes out is going to be what comes out, and I'm happy to welcome it with open arms, I suppose. such as the case might be. So let me, and by the way, I'm going to grab some blocks here and try to do a bunch at the same time. I had dry fit everything in just to see how many pieces I needed. And so I have a pretty good idea how things are going to fit in here as we go forward. So let me grab the pieces that I need. And let me come in here and there's some pieces that should fit together nicely. Got a kind of a range of green colors here. Let's get some reds in there. I've got kind of a range of reds. Like I said, not that there has to be any clear demarcation. It's going to be more random for what I am doing here. All right, so how are we doing? Get them all heading in the right direction. That'll be good. Let's get some more glue in here. PVA, polyvinyl acetate. Yeah, I knew it would come to me sooner or later. Well, you know, we call it white glue, right? It's the school glue that we all grew up with, putting on the palm of our hand, letting dry, and then peeling off. Yeah, that glue. Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because I can't be the only one who thought that was hours of entertainment at a certain point in my life. All right, so, oh, look at those. Looking nice. Make sure I'm going to press that down so it gets into the glue that I have there. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to be generous with the glue. No one's ever going to see the bottom of this tray again if we do it according to plan, right? Let's make sure we have something that will help things adhere beautifully in here. All right, line a bunch of these guys up. It's by the way, it's an interesting process. I think I went through like 4 complete comic books to create the pieces that I have, and of course, you have different colors and moods, and some of the comic books are a little somber in their coloring. Others a little bit more bright. But it's an interesting thing where you just get these bits and pieces of comic books, and every so often words pop up, and you ask yourself, do I want that word showing up there? Speaking of which, I have a word right here, but I'm going to change it around, making sure that everything, oh, actually, this is the top. So, I'm going to change the ones with words around, if that makes sense, so that when people approach this, if they come up close to it, what they're going to see is the words right side up. Right side up. So, I've got a few in here that are going to need to just be spun around here, not a big deal at all. Okay, there, that looks pretty good. And we'll continue with that. Again, I'm going to just work with what I think is going to be best for this. No right answer, as with most of the projects we work on, right? There's the way we do it is the way we do it, and sometimes we come up with these incredibly pleasant accidents that make us very happy. And I have created a few projects like this in the past, so I have a better understanding of what I can expect. And at the end of the day, when this thing hangs on a wall, it's really just an interesting conversation piece, to be honest. It's going to make it a lot easier for us to just have something that really, really, really stands out from a lot of the other kinds of art we may have in our lives. Again, this is, you know, what are we calling this? This is kind of a paper sculpture at the end of the day, as much as it is anything. So, good pieces coming in. You get some bright orangey colors here. And let's get that in there like that. Almost there. This goes a lot faster once you've built all the pieces and get them into place. And again, I'm going to press these down periodically just to make sure that they come in contact with the glue at the bottom. And let's see. Those look good. I think they're pointing out in the right direction. Yes, they are. There's one that's upside down. Come on, you want to come this way. This is how all the cool kids are pointing. Good. Yeah, I'm pleased. I'm pleased so far with exactly how everything is going here. All right, a couple more in this space. There we go. And get into that glue, and let's finish the rest here. There we go, and that will give us a glue path to work with. Let me just start stacking these guys up. upside down from the rest if we're looking at that text, which we may, you never know. Someone may come and give this a close-up. Just come and stare at your wall and start reliving their comic book days. Speaking of the comic books, by the way, I will put a link in the description below. But the comic books that I used here, I actually bought as a bulk comic book purchase on Amazon. So you can go and get a lot of remainders. Probably, if I'm a betting man, these are comic books that don't really have much of a value outside of their cover price, and so you can get a very good chunk of them for not so much money, and gives you some great. Again, if you've not seen my paper tutorial, I'll put a link at the end of this video. But there's lots of great different types of papers that we can use when we're creating our artwork, and comic book paper and magazine paper is certainly one of those. So this is good. Getting close to the end. Pretty exciting stuff. Let me just get some glue right up here at the very tippy top, and let's see if we can fit the rest of these in. Usually I try to make a few extras just in case there's anything. But also what you'll find when you put these in, especially before the glue sets, is that there's going to be a little bit of a little room to squish things down. All right, so I can kind of do a little shove down if I need to right there and fit everybody in where they belong. And let's put the purple one. Get the purple one. That'll be the very tippy top for what I'm working on here. Okay, and in you go. All right. So there we are. It is a fun piece. Now again, there's a lot that goes into creating this. It's one of those pieces of artwork that you look at later and think, wow, that actually took about 5 hours to make if I'm telling it like it is. But you know what? It's really kind of a fun piece. Like I said, it's a little splash of color that's going to stick out of the wall. And it is a sculpture. It's a paper sculpture we're going to be able to throw up on the wall. And I'm going to put this in the studio, I think, in the gallery. I think you guys might want to get a chance to take a peek at this. And I'll come up with a great name for it, and we'll put the finished picture. It'll be right about here. Yeah, right about now, right about here. We'll put that up with the information, and you can find this in the Spectiva Studios gallery. But anyway, so happy for the opportunity to share this project with you. I think it's a fun project. It's an easy project, but the results are pretty darn cool. And that's what we have. By the way, thanks for joining me today. I always appreciate it. And if you're not a regular viewer, become one. You can hit the subscribe button. We drop a video every single Friday. And we explore things happening in abstract art and really fun projects to work on, especially if you're relatively new to the creation of artwork. And we'd love to have you come along on the ride. Anyway, I'm Spider. Thank you so much for dropping by, and I'll talk to you next time.